a deadly trade bloodshed in Kenya's rangelands. The serene landscapes of Kenya's rangelands hide a grim reality. Livestock rustling casts a long shadow over Kenya. This illegal activity has deep roots in the region's history and culture, but its impact today is devastating. Each year, hundreds of people die in violent clashes. These confrontations often involve heavily armed groups, turning once peaceful communities into battlegrounds. These deaths are a stark reminder of the human cost of this illegal trade. Families are torn apart, and entire communities are left to mourn their loved ones. Communities in Kenya's northern and northwestern regions are trapped in a cycle of violence. The constant threat of attacks forces them to live in a state of perpetual fear and insecurity. This violence stems from the theft of their most valuable assets, their livestock. For many pastoralists, cattle are not just a source of income, but a way of life, deeply intertwined with their cultural identity. The vastness and remoteness of these areas make them vulnerable. The isolation of these regions means that help is often far away, and the rugged terrain provides cover for rustlers. Security forces struggle to maintain control. Despite their efforts, the sheer size of the area and the cunning tactics of the rustlers make it a daunting task. This makes it easier for rustlers to operate with impunity. They strike swiftly and disappear into the vast wilderness, leaving little trace behind. The Kenyan government and local communities are locked in a constant battle. Efforts to curb this menace involve both military operations and community-led initiatives. The goal is to stop this deadly trade and bring peace back to these troubled regions. Through collaboration and resilience, there is hope that one day the rangelands of Kenya will be free from the shadow of violence and bloodshed. Beyond tradition, the business of stolen cattle. This is a story that delves deep into the heart of Kenya's pastoral communities, where the age-old practice of cattle rustling has evolved into a complex and often dangerous enterprise. Livestock rustling is not uniform across Kenya. The practice varies significantly from one region to another, influenced by local customs, economic conditions, and the presence of law enforcement. In some counties, rustling is deeply embedded in the cultural fabric. It is seen as a rite of passage for young men, a way to prove their bravery and earn respect within their communities. In these areas, cattle are often stolen to settle old scores or to fulfill traditional obligations. The act is steeped in ritual and history, a continuation of practices that have been passed down through generations. However, the motivations behind cattle rustling are not always rooted in tradition. In other parts of Kenya, the practice has taken on a more sinister and commercial aspect. Here, rustling has transformed into a lucrative business enterprise. Criminal gangs have recognized the potential for profit and have organized themselves into sophisticated networks. These gangs operate with precision, moving stolen livestock across vast distances and even across national borders. The cattle are sold in bustling markets, often far from where they were taken. The involvement of organized crime has brought a new level of brutality to cattle rustling. Armed confrontations are common, and the stakes are higher than ever before. The stolen livestock are transported in large trucks, often under the cover of darkness, to avoid detection. They cross borders with ease thanks to corrupt officials and well-placed bribes. The commercialization of rustling has made it more brutal and more difficult to control. Law enforcement agencies are often outmatched and outgunned by the well-armed gangs. For the pastoral communities, the impact is devastating. What was once a manageable local issue has become a major threat to their way of life. The loss of cattle means the loss of livelihood, security, and cultural heritage. It is no longer just about tradition or local disputes. It is about organized crime and profit. The business of stolen cattle has evolved, and with it the challenges faced by those who live in its shadow. Roots of conflict, poverty, ignorance, and old grievances. To understand the persistence of livestock rustling, we must examine its root causes. Poverty plays a significant role. In marginalized communities with limited economic opportunities, rustling offers a quick way to acquire wealth. Illiteracy also contributes to the problem. Many young men lack education and skills. This makes them easy targets for recruitment by criminal gangs. Historical ethnic hostilities further fuel the cycle of violence. Decades-old grudges over land, resources, and political power continue to simmer. These tensions often erupt in the form of cattle raids and revenge attacks. From cattle raids to criminal networks, a modern threat. Livestock rustling has undergone a disturbing transformation in recent years. What was once a cultural practice has morphed into a sophisticated criminal enterprise. This shift is deeply troubling. It suggests that the problem is becoming more entrenched and more difficult to address. Organized criminal gangs have taken over the trade. They operate with military precision. They're equipped with automatic weapons and use mobile phones and the internet to coordinate their operations. These gangs have established elaborate networks for transporting and selling stolen livestock. This includes cross-border smuggling rings and corrupt officials who turn a blind eye to their activities. The impact on local communities is devastating. Families lose their primary source of livelihood, plunging them into poverty. Children are forced to drop out of school. As their families can no longer afford fees, the local economy suffers as markets become empty and businesses struggle to survive. Efforts to combat this menace require collaboration between police and the community. Training programs for local law enforcement are essential. Community watch groups play a crucial role in monitoring suspicious activities. Technology such as drones and surveillance equipment can aid in crime prevention. Government officials must address the issue with urgency and commitment. International cooperation is also vital to tackle cross-border smuggling. With concerted efforts, there is hope for positive change in these rural areas. Rebuilding communities and restoring peace is possible with sustained action. A brighter future awaits if we all work together to combat this modern threat. Section 5, Armed and Dangerous: the escalation of violence. The involvement of modern weapons and technology has dramatically escalated the violence associated with livestock rustling. Automatic weapons, readily available through porous borders and illegal arms trafficking, have replaced traditional spears and arrows. This has resulted in a higher number of casualties and a greater sense of fear and insecurity in affected communities. Moreover, the use of mobile phones and the internet by criminal gangs allows them to plan and execute raids with greater efficiency and to evade law enforcement more easily. Section 6, A Trail of Devastation: the human cost of rustling. The impact of livestock rustling extends far beyond the immediate loss of animals. It leaves a trail of devastation in its wake. Entire communities are torn apart as families flee their homes in search of safety. Schools and hospitals are often abandoned or destroyed, disrupting education and healthcare services. The economic consequences are equally severe. The loss of livestock deprives families of their livelihoods, plunging them deeper into poverty. The cycle of violence creates a climate of fear and instability, discouraging investment and hindering development. Section 7, Breaking the Cycle: a multi-pronged approach. Addressing the complex issue of livestock rustling requires a multi-pronged approach that tackles both the symptoms and the root causes. This demands a concerted effort from the government, local communities, and civil society organizations. One crucial step is to strengthen law enforcement agencies. They need to be better equipped and trained to combat organized crime. This includes enhancing border security to curb the flow of illegal arms and stolen livestock. Section 8, A Call for Unity: Government and Communities Working Together. The fight against livestock rustling cannot be won by the government alone. Local communities must be active partners in this effort. Community-based security initiatives such as vigilante groups and neighborhood watch programs have proven effective in deterring rustlers. These initiatives should be supported and strengthened. It is also essential to promote inter-community dialogue and conflict resolution mechanisms to address historical grievances and build trust between communities. Section 9, Towards a Peaceful Future: a Shared Responsibility. The scourge of livestock rustling poses a significant threat to peace, security, and development in Kenya. A brighter future is possible, but it requires a collective effort. The government must demonstrate its commitment to tackling this issue. Local communities must be empowered to become agents of change. By working together, we can break the cycle of violence and create a more secure and prosperous future for all Kenyans.